I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. The type of voice work I feel most connected to is natural.
I think the processed version is more clear. That muddiness, that woolliness, that boxy sound has been removed. My name is Lenny B, audio engineer. I'm going to show you exactly what I did with a parametric EQ, compression, and some other effects. I'll show you exactly how I got that sound in this video. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is listen to the audio and listen for differences with the frequencies and find out what we're working with here. We'll say this, because I've been doing this for such a long time, I kind of read waveforms. I can see breaths. Like when I look at the waveform in a DAW, I've edited so much audio throughout my life that I feel like I could, oh, that's a breath right there. That's the word and. I also feel like the waveforms tell me a little bit about the audio as well. This waveform has kind of a thickness to it. There's a lot of thick parts. It's not very dynamic. It almost has a compressed feel, meaning that it looks like a dynamic microphone. Just from seeing so many microphones, I guess I could kind of recognize the patterns that way. So this definitely has a bold, kind of a thick sound already to it. And it's true, it is a dynamic microphone. This is the SE Dynacaster DCM8 microphone. Let's listen to the raw audio, and it looks like I've lowered the gain 1 decibel. So the recording level was not only very close to what I've asked for, peaking at about -6, but it's a very good, healthy exposure. The recording level is on target. Let's listen to the raw audio.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. The type of voice work I feel most connected to is natural, believable voice work with warmth, humor, and emotional connection.
One of the things that strikes me right away is that there's very little long reflection sounds. It sounds like he's in a pretty well-treated space. It's pretty quiet. I think a lot of the foundational techniques are in place. Mic technique, recording level, just the way that this is recorded is done well. So we've got something here we can build on. The one thing that does stand out to me is kind of a woolly, boxy, kind of a muddy type of a sound. Ooh, I think that's the tone. You know, all frequency spaces correspond with an actual tone, like on the piano. It resonates at a certain frequency. Let me see if I can identify that. And what we're going to do is use, I'm going to use my F6 floating band dynamic EQ by Waves. That's the one here. And I'm going to grab one of the frequency spaces and sweep it and see if I could recognize that frequency that I'm hearing, which is overabundant. It's louder than all the other frequencies. Let me play the raw audio again. I'm going to turn this on so we can see the frequency analyzer as well.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic.
I recently got a comment on my YouTube channel, and someone was saying that they get confused when they try to sweep. They try to pick a frequency and sweep around and find where to EQ. It's like, how do you know which one? You know, you do it so fast. They were saying this to me, Lenny, you do it so fast. You know, I feel like I can't hear anything. And I was sharing the approach that I have. You know, I kind of hear it in my head first. This is one approach. When I'm trying to EQ a voice to try to balance out the frequencies, I kind of listen to the raw audio and I hear the frequency in my head. And when I'm listening, that's what's happening here. Let me play it real quick.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally.
Ooh, ooh, I can hear that sound, and I can hear the sound, and I can see it in the frequency analyzer. It's probably around here. Look at, you can see where the bump is in the frequency analyzer. So I'm thinking that's what it is, but I'm going to grab this EQ and sweep around and see if I can confirm that this is the one. And what's going to happen is, here's what's going to happen. While I'm sweeping it, when I land over that frequency space that's overabundant, it's really going to resonate because I've raised it up. It's going to jump out. Let me see if that's truly the case. And I'm also going to solo this band. So we're only going to hear this frequency band number 3. And I do that by right-clicking on my mouse or my little pen here. When I right-click, that's one of the things I love about the F6 floating band dynamic EQ by Waves is there's other plugins that allow you to solo like that, but this one, for some reason, is the only one that I can get to right-click on the mouse whenever I'm ready and whenever I want to, and I can solo the band, and it helps me quickly find the frequency that I'm looking for. Let's try it. All right, here we go.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before This is my raw voice before processing.
Yep, that's the one I was hearing. So by sliding this around, it's helped me identify, but I'll point it out that I heard it first in my head. And I think that just only, it's a skill that you work on and practice and grow. And it's like, try to find where that is. I think one of the odd things is I have the ability to, because of the work that I do and because I examine, diagnose, and help so many different people with their voiceover, recording quality and plugins and custom processing presets, that I've gotten so many submissions, like I think really thousands of submissions over the years with different voices, different microphones, recorded in different rooms with different setups. And it's really given me this perspective. That was the word I was looking for. It's given me this particular perspective where I've heard so many, I can kind of call them out. It's a weird skill to have, I'll tell you that. But I think I'm able to kind of hear it in my head. And I'm explaining this because I want you to, eventually you should be able to do this for yourself as well. Or there's people that want to learn the skill of how to EQ and how to balance audio. And that's what I'm doing. So let me see if now that I have identified the offending frequency, space and frequency, let's see if we can balance it out and make this sound better.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic.
I've massaged it a little bit. I've widened the cue, the frequency space that I'm actually cutting. I've widened it. I've narrowed it. I've listened to one way, listened to the other. And then one of the really important things, and I should point this out, and I talk about this a lot in my videos, is I replenish the energy. And this is a gain staging example here. I'm removing the energy with this band number 3 to balance out this audio, and then I'm replenishing that energy that I've removed. Because when you remove some low material here, the frequency space that was overabundant, when you remove that material with an EQ, the volume, the loudness of this entire audio file being played through this EQ is lower. So I'm replenishing that with the output. This is the overall output of the entire EQ. So you can manipulate the frequency spaces, but then you can raise the whole output. So the end result is that, you're cutting particular frequency spaces. It's lowering the energy of this whole audio unit, or this whole audio signal and this recording. But then at the end of the EQ, you're bumping. So you're minimizing some frequencies, but then you're raising up the entire output. So this is what happens when you listen back to back, raw audio versus the EQ that you've done. When you replenish that energy, now you're listening to equal footing, right? You're hearing the raw audio at a particular level, you're making the changes, but it's gain stage, and now you're hearing the EQ'd audio at the same level. That's really, truly the only way you can compare the work that you've done, because you're listening to equal loudness examples back to back. And especially when you're dealing with EQ and small little frequency changes, and especially if you're just starting to refine the skill, I think it's really important to make sure that you are monitoring just the EQ changes so you can actually realize if it sounds better or worse. I mean, that's part of kind of having the skill. I've gain staged this audio. So it's before and after the EQ changes that I've made. And I'm illustrating here just one particular change, one EQ band change. But you're going to hear a pretty big difference with the before and after EQ change and how much more balanced it sounds. So let's listen to the raw audio, and I'm going to play just this first sentence section, and then I'll play the same thing again with the EQ engaged. And I want you to listen for a balancing of the audio. Is that woolliness, is that muddy, that boxy sound gone? And did we not only correctly identify the frequency, but how much and how wide to cut? I know you're saying just like, Lenny, just play the audio. I know. I want to just tell you one more thing. The whole idea here is I don't want you to hear the EQ. I want you to hear his voice. I want you, the end result here is the reason why I'm doing this EQ is because I want it to sound natural. I don't want you to hear a boxiness. I don't want you to hear the room. I want you to hear his vibe. I want you to hear the story he's telling. When I create custom processing presets and settings for my clients, I want their vibe to be heard. I want the story to be heard. I don't want you to hear the processing. So that's important because that's the entire end goal of why we're even doing this in the first place. Okay, raw audio, then I'll engage the EQ. You can hear the difference.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic.
I'm going to go through and EQ a few more bands and really balance out the rest of this. But I think I wanted to point this particular concept out to you so you can really hear it. One frequency space is balancing one particular problem. But there's other little spaces that may not take as much EQ work, but I'm going to go through the rest of it. And I want you to hear the entire difference between all of the EQ being done, and I'll add some compression and some gating and some maybe de-essing if it needs it, and really give it a final sound. I'm going to play that for you in just a second, but I want to extend an invitation. If you feel like you have some type of an imbalance in your audio, something just doesn't feel quite right. You try to record, but there's a boxy sound, a muddy sound. Sometimes it sounds far away, like your voice just doesn't sound like present, like right in front of you. And usually that's because there is a imbalance in the frequencies, and it's pretty common in small spaces and small booths if you're recording your voice. It's also common if you're at a big desk and maybe you're in a bigger room and you're on camera recording, and it depends on the microphone that you have and the size of the room and a bunch of different things. That's what I can help you with. Send me your raw audio and I will diagnose it. I personally review it myself, and I will send back to you for free an example of what my custom processing sounds like with your voice captured on your mic in your room. It's really simple to do. Just go to my website. It's lennyb.com. And at the upper right side of the homepage, there's a red button. You click that button and follow the instructions. It's really easy. If when I diagnose your audio, I find that there is somewhere we can improve, or there's some type of an issue that you're having with the way that it's set up, or the equipment, or your gain staging, or your recording level, I share that with you. I want to help you improve. But then also, I want you to hear what a refined, optimized sound could be like with my custom processing. I do this for absolutely free. There's no obligation to buy anything. So don't be shy. I want you to send me your audio. I want to give you that clarity and let you know, hey, you've got an issue. We got to fix this in your room, and I can help you with that. But if we were to add and balance out some of those frequencies, this is what it could sound like. Again, lennyb.com. All right, let's listen to the. I've gone through and I have done a full EQ adjustment, and I've added a bunch of other things, and I want to play for you the before and after, the completely raw and then fully processed recording, and I want you to hear the difference.
This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. This is my raw voice before processing. I'm speaking normally at my natural distance from the mic. The type of voice work I feel most connected to is natural, believable voice work with warmth, humor, and emotional connection.
Now, as you can see, I went through and added a bunch more bands to further balance this EQ, and he's got a pretty legit resonant sound around 361 in his sound booth. But, it's definitely improved with this type of EQ. In a situation like this, when I'm consulting somebody, I would say, hey, that's quite a lot of EQ. There's probably something we can do with mic position or adding some sound treatment that could improve the raw audio capture so we don't have to use that much EQ. But then again, it really depends on what they want to do. I think the EQ does a pretty good job of balancing. I just want to establish that we could actually make this process sound even better if we were to go back and fix that imbalance in the raw audio capture before it actually gets recorded. And then this other plugin here is my Sheps Omnichannel, and I'm applying some expander. This quiets down some of the noise that we hear in between words. I'm adding a little bit of odd harmonic saturation to thicken up the audio and give it a rounder kind of warm sound. I'm using a soft knee compressor, getting 1 to 3 dB of reduction. This is keeping the dynamics in check. I'm using a second equalizer. I'm increasing the highs a little bit and the upper mids to give a little more clarity. And then I'm running a couple de-essers, using them both very lightly, and finally a limiter. And then it's also really important, again, when I've added much more processing like I've done in this final version, just go through and gain stage it again. So I make sure that before the processing and after all that processing, we're still listening to the same level audio so we can compare it the right way. If some of this EQ talk was just like over your head, you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm interested. If you want to learn the EQ skill so you can shape and modify the frequencies of your own voice recordings, I have a video training course. It's called EQ Fundamentals for Voice, and it shows you how to confidently use EQ so you can modify your own voice recordings or other people's voice recordings. I know I have producers that absolutely love the course. It's very affordable, and it's for beginners and pros. It doesn't matter the level that you're at. That's one way you can learn the skill yourself. And then also, if you just want to sound better and you want to leave it to a professional, you can absolutely lean on me for that. That is what I do for my clients. Send me your raw audio. I'll examine it, and I will give you a free example of what my processing sounds like on your voice. Go to my website. It's lennyb.com to get started for free.